Democrats confess they're breaking the law to overturn McCormick's victory. Well, then who's the law enforcement here, though? Is it the current Pennsylvania Attorney General? I mean, because, again, there has to be a price to breaking the law, right? That is fundamental to the American justice system. So we know they're breaking the law. They're doing it in broad daylight. Who controls the handcuffs in this situation?
Well, it would be the Pennsylvania Attorney General and the governor, Josh Shapiro, who, by the way, wants to be the Democrat nominee for president in 2028. And here he is willingly and openly allowing the law to be violated in his own state because he thinks it will benefit a Democrat. I mean, the then Attorney General was Josh Shapiro in 2020. And Charlie, even before the election, he was already laying the groundwork to go after Republicans who challenged an election that was fraught with issues. He was very proactive. He was very vocal. And back then, he was doing that because he knew that there were major issues with 2020, and he knew that Republicans would stand to benefit from it. But now that Democrats stand to benefit from this, he's completely silent, as is John Fetterman, who was on with Jake Tapper yesterday, saying it's only a couple hundred ballots. Well, nothing could be further from the truth, Charlie. It's far more than a couple hundred ballots. The truth is it's tens of thousands of ballots. And the court has said, or Al Schmidt, who was our Secretary of State, has said, well, you know, the court ruled on this. And so make sure you set those ballots aside, because if another court ruling comes down, like, well, we're going to have to act on that. It's like the court has already ruled on this. The court has already said these ballots are illegal. And if these county commissioners in these Democrat-controlled counties are already willing to count illegal ballots right out in the open, what hope do we have that any of these ballots will be segregated? Because once they're thrown in, once they're separated from the secrecy envelope and lumped in with every other ballot, the chain of custody is completely broken and you can't check anything. It's absolutely ludicrous. And so it's going to be critical for the incoming Attorney General, Matt Gaetz, to investigate this on a national level, because I don't think we have any hope of our local elected officials here in Pennsylvania
this is legal anarchy. And I don't like using, because at some point, if everyone's in on it, if the Secretary of State is in on it, and the Attorney General is in on it, and the governor is in on it, and everyone's in on it, and saying they're openly ignoring the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the federal government, Matt Gaetz, Attorney General, should just go arrest them. And by the way, this does not go away, meaning it's not like we're going to forget about this. Sean, would it be appropriate by February, Matt Gaetz sends in federal marshals, sends in the FBI, conducts a very quick investigation, finds that they defied the Pennsylvania Supreme Court? I mean, there has to be a federal law here at some point, right?
Well, of course. I mean, absolutely that needs to happen. There have to be consequences for this. There were so many issues during 2020. We had 4 years to get this right. It's not like these elections are a surprise. And I don't think that it would require any sort of in-depth investigation into what happened in some of these Democrat-controlled counties. Some of these boards of elections and these commissioners in charge, Democrat commissioners in charge of these counties, are on video saying, I don't really care about the law. And so, yeah, it would not be unprecedented for Matt Gaetz or the FBI or whoever the appropriate investigating authority would be to come in and investigate this, because there absolutely have to be consequences here. What's maddening to me, Charlie, is these Democrats, they'll be out, oh, we have to count every vote. Count every vote. In 2020, the Democrats sent out 30,000 plus absentee mail-in ballots to wrong addresses in my district. The Democrats back then were like, count every ballot. Even the ballots that were from outside the district that they knew were illegal, count every ballot. And when you do that, it disenfranchises an actual Pennsylvania voter, and even one voter disenfranchised is too much. And the frivolousness with which the Democrats use to disenfranchise people is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that they've just been silent on this issue when it stands to benefit them is just, it's like you said, it's legal anarchy, and it cannot be allowed to stand. There have to be consequences. Otherwise, it's going to happen down the road.
Yeah, we have the cut here. We're going to play in a second. This is the Bucks County Commission voted to count illegal ballots, defying a Pennsylvania Supreme Court ruling in a move that could only benefit Bob Casey. One commissioner admitted that she knows it's illegal, but does not care. These people need to go to federal prison. I want these people's names. If there's not, Merrick Garland is all in favor of this. He doesn't care. Play cut 17.
We reject all three categories of these ballots.
Your motion is to reject or dismiss the challenges in this category in front of you?
Correct, yep.
I'm not going to second that, mostly because I think we all know that precedent by a court doesn't matter anymore in this country, and people violate laws anytime they want. So for me, if I violate this law, it's because I want a court to pay attention to it.
I mean, that's one of the most outrageous statements I've ever heard. Diane Marseglia. Andrew, let's tweet that out and say she needs to go to federal prison. Again, you can't put up with this, guys. If all of a sudden, like, for example, if somebody in Pima County, Arizona says, hey, I want to be able to count ballots by illegal aliens because I want to, even though a judge says I can't. At some point, people need to go to jail for this. Sean, 30 seconds.
Well, Charlie, look, these are just the counties, the Democrat counties that we know about. They're the ones just being open and honest about it. A couple thousand ballots across 67 counties that are illegally counted could absolutely sway an election and sway the power in the House and the Senate. There have to be consequences for it. If there aren't consequences for it, it will absolutely happen again.